Build a genius medieval water filtration system. DIY ancient tech. Imagine a world where every drop of water you drink could be your last. A world without modern plumbing, bottled water, or sanitation systems. This was medieval Europe, a time when water was both a source of life and an agent of death. Rivers and streams, which today inspire poetry and adventure, were often dumping grounds for human waste, animal remains, and refuse. Drinking from them was a gamble with fate. A simple sip could bring fever, sickness, and sometimes death. Yet, despite these dangers, medieval people survived. They did not have microscopes or germ theory. Their understanding of disease was clouded by superstition and fear. But their survival depended on observation, experimentation, and ingenuity. Out of necessity, they developed clever natural filtration systems. Simple but effective, made from sand, gravel, charcoal, and cloth. These methods turned contaminated water into drinkable liquid and saved countless lives. This video uncovers the forgotten genius of medieval water filtration, a remarkable technology born from survival instincts and hard-won knowledge. It's a story of human resilience, scientific curiosity, and ancient wisdom that remains relevant today. Medieval Europe, the struggle for clean water. When we look back at the Middle Ages, our minds often picture knights in shining armor, grand castles, and epic battles. But beneath this romantic image, a far more deadly threat. Contaminated water. Medieval towns and cities were overcrowded, often with poor hygiene and no proper sewage systems. Streams near villages were often polluted with slaughterhouse waste and decaying organic matter. Mortality rates, especially for children, were staggering. In some areas, nearly half of all children died before their 5th birthday due to contaminated water. Waste, including human excrement, animal droppings, and garbage, was routinely dumped into streets and nearby rivers. Some tried prayers and rituals, others attempted boiling water, but most relied on trial and error. Wells, once revered as life-giving sources, were vulnerable to contamination from runoff, especially during storms. The result was a perfect breeding ground for deadly waterborne diseases, dysentery, cholera, typhoid, and a host of others that ravaged populations. These systems weren't perfect, but they dramatically reduced the risk of sickness and death. But there was no understanding of bacteria or viruses. Instead, people blamed foul odors, evil spirits, or unlucky stars. Amid this chaos, some individuals began to notice patterns. That water from certain wells was safer, that sediment settled in still water, and that certain natural materials seemed to purify water. This painful learning process laid the groundwork for the medieval water filtration systems we'll explore today. Learning from nature. The birth of filtration. Without microscopes, chemistry, or laboratories, medieval people turned to nature itself for answers. They observed how muddy water left standing would gradually clear as dirt and particles settled to the bottom. The first step in natural filtration, known as sedimentation. This taught them patience and gave insight into the purification process. Sand acted like a sieve, trapping particles and debris. Charcoal was everywhere in medieval life, used for cooking, heating, and metalworking. But its medical uses were also known. Charcoal powder was applied to wounds and ingested in cases of poisoning. They also noticed that water flowing over sandy riverbeds was clearer than water flowing over muddy ground. Perhaps the most surprising discovery was charcoal, a material byproduct of fires and forges. Villagers noticed that water filtered through charcoal lost foul tastes and odors. Although they didn't understand the microscopic science, they realized charcoal's porous structure trapped impurities. It was an ancient form of activated carbon filtration. In other parts of the world, reflecting a universal human drive to protect life. By combining layers of cloth, gravel, sand, and charcoal, medieval people created multi-stage filtration systems that were remarkably effective. These systems were widely used, from rural villages to monasteries, as a practical way to reduce illness and improve quality of life. This ingenuity wasn't limited to Europe. Similar filtration methods were independently developed across Asia, the Middle East. Anatomy of a medieval water filter. Now, let's explore how these ingenious water filters were constructed and how they worked. The first requirement was a vessel. Clay jars, wooden barrels, or hollowed logs were commonly used. Materials readily available in medieval communities. These containers had to be watertight to hold water while allowing filtration. At the bottom, a layer of cloth or moss was placed. This layer caught large debris, leaves, insects, and floating particles, preventing clogging and ensuring longer filter life. Each layer progressively filtered smaller particles, much like modern multi-stage filters. Next came a thick layer of coarse gravel or small stones. This trapped larger impurities and created structural support. Above the gravel was a thick layer of coarse sand, topped by finer sand layers. The key element was a layer of crushed hardwood charcoal, usually made from oak, beech, or similar dense woods. The slower the filtration, the more effective the purification process. Hardwood charcoal was produced by burning wood slowly in low oxygen, creating a brittle, porous material with millions of tiny cavities. This charcoal layer absorbed odors, toxins, and microscopic impurities invisible to the naked eye. Its chemical and physical properties made it highly effective in purifying water. Finally, the top of the filter was covered with cloth to prevent new debris from contaminating the water. Water was poured slowly into the top and allowed to trickle down through these layers by gravity. The filtered water collected at the bottom was clearer, fresher, and far safer to drink than untreated sources. Remarkably, modern water treatment plants rely on the exact same principles: sedimentation, sand filtration, and activated carbon, only scaled and mechanized for today's needs. Charcoal, the medieval miracle. Charcoal played an essential role in medieval life. Beyond the forge and hearth, it was medicine, purifier, and sometimes a last line of defense against death. Medieval charcoal was produced by slowly burning hardwood logs in pits covered with earth, limiting oxygen. This process created a porous black substance with an incredibly high surface area. Blacksmiths depended on charcoal for its intense heat and clean burning properties, but healers also prized it for its remarkable medicinal uses. Apothecaries used powdered charcoal to treat poisoning and digestive illnesses. It was believed to absorb toxins within the body. This effort demonstrated its value and the lengths people would go to protect themselves. During plague outbreaks, charcoal was burned indoors to purify the air, based on the miasma theory of disease. Crushing charcoal finely to maximize its absorptive capacity was hard, labor-intensive work, often done by hand. With mortars, though medieval people did not understand bacteria or viruses, they knew charcoal improved water's taste, smell, and safety. It was an early form of chemistry born from fire and earth, giving people power over their environment and fate. The human costs and stories behind the science. Behind the practical knowledge of medieval water filtration lies a deeply human story, one of desperation, loss, hope, and resilience. Countless families suffered devastating losses from contaminated water. Children fell ill with fevers and never recovered. Entire villages were decimated during disease outbreaks spread through water sources. In this environment, filtration knowledge was sacred wisdom, passed down from generation to generation. Elders instructed apprentices how to choose the cleanest sand and gravel. Healers shared insights on the best cloth materials for filtering. Mothers taught daughters how to crush charcoal to the right consistency. This knowledge wasn't just technical. It was an act of love and survival, the difference between life and death. Each cup of filtered water represented a victory, a small triumph in a brutal and uncertain world. A global legacy of water filtration. The medieval filtration system in Europe was part of a much larger global tradition of water purification. In ancient India, the Sushruta Samhita, one of the earliest medical texts, described methods of purifying water using boiling, sunlight exposure, and sand filtration. Centuries before, Persian desert communities constructed underground cisterns lined with lime plaster to collect rainwater and used sand filters to purify this precious resource. In Japan, during the Heian period, temples and homes used charcoal filtration techniques long before these methods were understood scientifically. These independent discoveries illustrate a universal truth. Throughout history and across continents, people recognized water's critical importance and developed natural methods to protect it. This shared human ingenuity is a testament to survival, innovation, and the timeless power of observation. Medieval filtration's relevance. Today, clean water seems effortless. Turn on a tap, and fresh water flows. But this convenience is fragile and not universal. Natural disasters like floods, earthquakes, and hurricanes can destroy infrastructure overnight. Conflict and displacement leave millions without access to safe water. Modern filtration plants require electricity, chemicals, and maintenance. Luxuries, not always available. In such times, the lessons of medieval water filtration become invaluable. Survivalists, campers, and off-grid communities continue to use slow sand filters with charcoal to purify water safely and sustainably. This ancient knowledge remains a powerful tool for resilience, reminding us that simple natural materials and time-tested techniques can overcome some of the most dangerous threats. The next time you pour a glass of clean water, remember those who fought to secure this simple blessing. Think of the mothers who labored over charcoal and sand filters to protect their families, the blacksmiths who produced charcoal with blistered hands, the healers who watched lives hang on a single cup of water. This wisdom is not just history, it's a legacy of resilience, passed down through centuries. If you found this exploration of medieval technology valuable, please like, subscribe, and tap the bell for more stories of ancient genius, rediscovered ancient tech that changed everything.